The market was alive with strange sounds. Alien voices shouting prices and bright lights shining over stalls filled with things no human had ever seen before. But inside this crowded place there was a small cage, dark and cold, and inside the cage sat a little alien girl no older than 3 years in human measure, her skin pale, her eyes big and full of tears, her tiny hands clutching the bars as she cried, "Don't take me, please, don't take me." The crowd passed by without care. Some laughed, some looked away, and others threw sharp comments about her weakness. Alien guards stood near the cage, tall, armored, and cruel, their faces hidden under dark masks. One of them opened the cage and grabbed the little girl by her arm. She screamed, kicking and struggling, but she was too small, too weak to fight them. "Stop crying, worthless creature," one guard growled, his voice deep and cold. The other guard pulled harder, dragging her out of the cage, her small feet scraped against the rough stone floor. She begged again, "Please, I'm just 3, don't take me." But her words fell into the noisy air, ignored by all around her. From the corner of the market, a man stood still, silent, watching. He was human, dressed in simple clothes, a traveler, his eyes sharp and steady. He had seen cruelty before. He had seen suffering, but something about the little girl's voice, the way she begged with all her strength, cut into his heart like a blade. He did not move at first. His hands tightened into fists at his side. He watched the guards push her, her small body stumbling forward, and he saw the crowd turn their heads away. No one cared. No one wanted to step into this fight. The human man took a step forward. The sound of his boots against the stone ground was quiet, but in his chest his heart beat louder. The guards dragged the girl past him, and in that moment her tear-filled eyes lifted and met his. It was only a second, but it was enough. She looked at him with a desperate hope, as if begging him alone to help her. The man felt something inside him burn. He could not let it happen. Not again, not this time. He stepped closer, his voice strong and calm. "Let her go." The guards stopped, their helmets turning to face him. The crowd also turned, whispers spreading quickly. A human was interfering. A human was speaking against. The alien guards, this was rare, this was dangerous. "Who are you to speak here?" One guard hissed, his grip tightening on the child's arm. The girl winced, her small voice whimpering in pain. The man stood tall, his face calm, but his eyes sharp as steel. "She's just a child," he said. "She does not belong in your hands." The guards laughed, a cruel, echoing sound. "This creature is nothing," one said. "She is broken, useless, not even worth food. Why do you care, human?" The man did not move back, his gaze did not fall. "Because she begged," he said simply, his words heavy in the silence that followed. The crowd held its breath. The market air grew tense. No one dared to interrupt. The little girl looked at him with wide eyes, her lips trembling. She had begged to many, but no one had listened until now. The guard pulled the girl closer, showing his power. "Do you want to buy her then?" he mocked. "Do you want to waste your credits on trash?" The man shook his head slowly. "I don't buy children." His voice sharp, cutting through the noise. "I protect them." The guards shifted, their mocking laughter fading, replaced with anger. The crowd began to murmur, some curious, some fearful, and some waiting for a fight. The girl clung to the guard's arm, still crying softly, but her eyes never left the human. For the first time since her cage opened, she saw someone who did not look away, someone who stood against the cruelty. The man stepped closer again, his hand slightly raised, not in threat but in warning, his voice calm but firm. "Release her, or you will regret it." The guards stared, their hands moving to their weapons. The crowd shifted back, making space. Something was about to happen, something no one expected. The market lights flickered. The air filled with the sound of distant thunder from ships above. But all eyes stayed on the human and the guards, and in the center of it all, the small alien girl with tear-stained cheeks, holding on to the last bit of hope she had left. And then, silence, heavy, waiting. The kind of silence before the first blow is struck, the moment when the world holds its breath. The girl whispered again, her voice shaking but clear. Don't let them take me." And the man, his jaw tight, his fists ready, answered in a steady voice, "They won't." The crowd felt the shift. Something powerful was about to begin, a story that would not be forgotten, the moment when one human chose to step out of the shadows and stand against the cruelty of an empire. Not for power, not for riches, but for a child who had no one else. And in that market, under the strange lights of alien worlds, the legend began. The market had gone silent. Only whispers floated in the air. The human man stood tall in front of the guards, the small alien girl trembling behind their grip, her big, tearful eyes never leaving him. The crowd waited, wondering if this man was a fool or if he truly had the courage to fight. The guards laughed first, their sharp voices echoing. One pulled the girl roughly, making her stumble. "You want her, human?" The guard sneered. "Then pay for her. Everything has a price here." The man's jaw tightened, his voice calm but filled with fire. "She is not an object," he said. "She is a child." The crowd stirred. Some aliens chuckled, others frowned. No one had ever dared speak like this in the market. Not against the guards. These guards worked for powerful masters, merchants who dealt in lives as if they were coins. The second guard stepped closer, his heavy boots echoing. He towered over the human, his armor dark and sharp. "You are alone, human," he growled. "Do not mistake pity for power. Walk away while you can." But the man did not move, his eyes steady, his fists tight. Behind the guards, the little girl whispered again, "Please don't let them take me." Her voice weak but full of hope. The first guard yanked her arm, lifting her small body as if she weighed nothing. The crowd gasped at the cruelty, but still no one stepped in, no one except the human. "I said let her go," the man repeated, louder this time, his voice carrying through the marketplace. A merchant with golden robes came forward, his face wide and greedy, his eyes glowing with profit. He raised a hand, silencing the guards for a moment. "Wait," he said, his tone slick. "This human may have credits. Perhaps he can pay." The guards dropped the girl to the ground with a thud. She whimpered in pain, curling close to herself. The man's heart clenched at the sight, but he kept his anger in control, his eyes sharp on the merchant. "I will not buy her," the man said firmly. "I will not pay for a child's freedom, because freedom should never have a price." The crowd erupted in whispers again, many shaking their heads. They thought him foolish, naive. No one spoke of freedom in this place. The merchant's smile twisted into a cruel sneer. "Then you will watch her taken, human, because in this market power decides, not pity." The guards reached again for the girl, their hands rough, but this time the man moved fast. His hand caught the guard's wrist mid-air, the sound sharp. The crowd gasped louder. The guard tried to pull free, but the man's grip was like iron. "Touch her again," the man said in a low voice, "and you will regret it." The guard snarled, drawing his arm back. The second guard reached for his weapon, a sharp blade glowing faint blue, but the merchant stopped them with a gesture, his greedy eyes studying the human. "Interesting," he muttered. "A human with fire. Perhaps there is more value in this than I thought." The little girl crawled toward the man, her small hands trembling as she reached his leg. She clung to him, hiding behind his figure. Her sobs quiet now but steady. The man gently placed a hand on her shoulder, a silent promise of safety. The merchant leaned forward, his voice sly. "Human, you cannot fight the entire market, you cannot fight the empire behind it, but perhaps you can trade. What do you offer for her life?" The man's eyes narrowed. "I offer this," he said, stepping closer. "I will walk out of this market with her, and you will not stop me." The merchant blinked, then burst into laughter, the sound rich and cruel. "You think you can command me? You think you can command the empire?" The guards tightened their hold on their weapons. The crowd leaned closer. The air grew heavy. A fight was close. The man's voice cut through the noise, calm but sharp as a blade. "I do not speak to the empire. I speak to you, and I am giving you a choice. Let her go now, or face the weight of your own greed when it turns to ruin." The merchant's laughter faded, his smile stiff. The confidence in his eyes flickered. The human's words were simple, but they carried a strange weight, a strength he could not explain. The guards looked uneasy, shifting under the man's steady gaze. The little girl clung tighter to him, whispering softly, "Don't leave me," and he bent slightly, whispering back, "I won't." The silence grew dangerous. Everyone waiting for the first strike, for the first scream. The merchant finally snapped his fingers. "Test him," he ordered. "Let us see if this human has the strength he claims." The guards moved at once, one raising his blade, the other reaching for the girl again. The human pushed her gently behind him, his stance strong, his fists ready, his eyes locked on the danger ahead. The market held its breath. The bargain had failed, and the real fight was about to begin. The moment was sharp like a blade. The guards moved at once. One swung his glowing blade toward the human, the other lunged for the little girl. The crowd gasped as if the whole market had stopped breathing. But the man was faster. His arm shot, up catching the guard's wrist before the blade could land. Sparks lit the air as the weapon hummed with deadly energy. With a sharp twist of his hand, the man forced the guard's arm sideways. The blade slashed harmlessly into the stone floor, leaving a burning scar. The second guard reached for the girl, but the man kicked forward, his boot slamming into the guard's chest. The alien stumbled back with a grunt, crashing into a stall of shining crystals. The crowd roared with shock. No one had ever seen a human fight alien guards so boldly. The little girl crawled behind the man, her tiny hands gripping the edge of his shirt, her voice trembling. "Don't let them take me," she whispered again, her eyes wide, her hope now burning brighter. The first guard snarled, ripping his arm free, his blade raised again. The man dodged, moving with speed the crowd did not expect. His fist struck the guard's helmet with a heavy crack, the sound echoing. The guard stumbled, sparks flying from his mask. The merchant shouted from behind, "Do not fail me, fools! Kill him if you must, but do not let him walk out with the child." The guards regrouped, circling him. The human stood firm, breathing steady, his fists tight, his body ready for every strike. Behind him, the little girl clung to his leg like a shadow, her eyes never leaving him. The second guard charged, his shoulder like a wall of steel. The man sidestepped at the last second, grabbing the guard's arm and using his weight against him. The alien crashed into the ground with a loud thud, dust rising. The crowd shouted louder, half in fear, half in awe. The first guard attacked again, his blade slicing through the air. The man ducked low, rolling forward, and as he rose, his elbow smashed into the guard's chest. The alien staggered back, gasping for breath. The crowd whispered furiously, "A human, fighting guards, impossible. How can he stand against them?" The merchant's face twisted with anger, sweat shining on his forehead. He had expected the human to fall quickly, but this man was different, too calm, too strong, too unyielding. The way little girl tugged at the man's shirt, her voice tiny but filled with fear. "They won't stop," she said, tears still on her cheeks. "They will never stop." The man looked down at her for only a moment, his voice steady. "Then I will never stop either." The guards came again, both at once this time, their blades flashing, their armor clanging. The human met them head-on, blocking, dodging, striking back with fists and kicks. The fight was uneven. Two armored aliens against one unarmed man. Yet he did not fall. Every move he made was filled with purpose, every strike precise. The crowd leaned closer, pressed against stalls. Some cheered quietly, others hissed in anger, but no one dared step into the circle of battle. The second guard raised his blade high, aiming for the girl. The man's eyes flared. He lunged forward, slamming his shoulder into the guard's side. The blade missed by inches. The girl screamed, clutching the ground. The man roared, his fist smashing into the guard's jaw. The alien fell hard, his blade clattering away, sparks dying on the stone. The first guard tried to strike again, but the man spun, his foot connecting with the guard's leg. The alien crashed down, his helmet breaking against the stone. Silence fell, heavy and thick. Both guards lay groaning on the ground, defeated. The man stood tall, his chest heaving, his fists still ready. The little girl crawled forward, clutching his leg tightly. She looked up at him with eyes wide as stars. You stopped them," she whispered, almost unable to believe it. The crowd began to murmur again, louder this time. "He fought them. He beat them. A human." The merchant's face burned with rage. his voice sharp and filled with hate. "This is not finished, human. You think you have won. But the market does not forgive. The masters will not forgive." The man turned, his head slowly, his eyes locking on the merchant, his voice steady but like thunder. "Let them come," he said. "I will stand again every time." The little girl pressed her face against his side, whispering softly, "Don't leave me." And he bent down slightly, whispering back, "I never will." The crowd stepped back as he lifted the girl gently into his arms. She clung to him tightly, her small fingers digging into his shirt, her face hidden against his chest. The guards groaned on the ground, broken but alive. The merchant's lips curled into a hateful snarl, his hand raised, signaling for more soldiers from the shadows. The market was not done, the fight was only beginning, and the human knew it. His eyes sharp, his stance strong, the girl safe in his arms for now, but danger closing in from all sides. And still, he did not move back. He did not falter. He had made his choice, and nothing in the galaxy would change it. He would protect her, no matter the cost. The market floor was covered in dust and broken pieces from the fight. The two guards groaned on the ground, their armor cracked, their pride shattered. The crowd kept its distance, eyes wide, whispers running like fire between them. A human had defeated armed guards with his bare hands. The merchant's face twisted with fury, but also with fear. He had never seen such defiance, never from a human, never from anyone. He pointed a shaking finger at the man. "You will pay for this. The masters will hear of it. They will crush you," he shouted. The man stood tall, the small alien girl clutched tightly in his arms, her face pressed against his chest, her tiny body trembling, but her eyes still looked at him with hope, a hope she had thought lost forever. The merchant's voice turned sharp again. "Do you even know what you are holding, human? Do you know what this child is?" The man's jaw tightened. He looked down at the girl for a moment, then back at the merchant. "Yes," he said, his voice calm but heavy. "I know." The crowd gasped, some stepping closer to hear, their curiosity burning. The merchant narrowed, his eyes. "Then you know she is worthless. Her people are gone. Her kind is broken. She is nothing but a relic." The man shook his head slowly, his eyes sharp, his voice steady. "No, she is not nothing. She is the last of her blood, the last of her people. Her kind was hunted, enslaved, destroyed, but not forgotten." The crowd murmured louder, shock in their voices. Some aliens whispered, "Extinct? Her kind was extinct. How can one still live?" The little girl clung to the man's shirt tighter, her small voice trembling. They took my family," she whispered, tears filling her eyes again. "They said I was weak. They said I should be sold." The man bent his head down, his voice softer now. "You are not weak," he told her. "You are alive, and that makes you stronger than they can ever understand." The merchant laughed, but his laughter was strained, forced. "Strong? She is a curse, human. Her kind brought nothing but ruin. The Empire made sure of it. Why would you protect such a child?" The man took a step forward, his eyes burning with fire, the girl still safe in his arms. "Because she begged," he said, "because no child should beg for mercy and be ignored, because no child should be left alone." The crowd went silent again. Every word carried weight. Every word struck deep. Even those who had laughed earlier now looked uneasy. The merchant clenched his fists, his voice loud. "You are a fool, human. You think you can fight history. You think you can fight the Empire. But you cannot. They will come for you. They will come for her. And you will both be crushed." The man's gaze did not break. "Then let them come," he said. "I will stand again and again, until they learn that humanity does not turn away from cries of the innocent." The little girl looked up at him, her big eyes wide. You know who I am?" she asked softly, her voice shaking with both fear and wonder. He looked down at her gently, nodding. "Yes," he said. "I know. And that is why I cannot let them take you. You are too important, not just for me, not just for your people, but for everyone who still believes in mercy." The crowd began to shift, some voices rose. "He is right, she is a child." "She does not deserve chains," others hissed. "He is dangerous, he will bring the Empire's wrath." The market trembled with division. The merchant raised his hand, signaling again. From the shadows, more figures stepped out, guards with heavier armor, weapons glowing brighter. The tension grew thick again. The little girl buried her face in the man's chest, whispering, "They will never stop," her small voice breaking. The man pressed his hand gently against her back, whispering back, "Then neither will I." He turned his head toward the new guards, his voice steady, carrying across the market. "I will protect her, no matter what you send. No matter how many of you come, I will not step aside. I will not let you take her." The merchant's face turned pale with anger, but behind his rage was a shadow of doubt. This human was not like the others. His words carried more than defiance. They carried a promise that even the Empire might fear. The crowd stepped further back, making a wide circle. The girl's identity was no longer a secret, the last of her kind, the last of a people thought lost, and the only human who dared stand. For her, the market lights flickered, the air grew heavy, and though the danger was closing in, the legend of that moment had already begun to take shape, a human and a child, against an empire. The market was no longer a place of trade. It had become a battlefield of silence and fear. The crowd stood back, eyes locked on the human and the little alien girl in his arms. More guards stepped from the shadows, their armor heavier, their weapons glowing with sharp light. The merchant's face twisted with greed and anger. "Seize them!" the merchant shouted, his voice loud and sharp. "Do not let them leave this market alive." The new guards moved quickly, forming a circle around the man, their boots echoing against the stone ground. Their weapons raised, the crowd gasped and pushed back, some climbing on stalls to see what would happen. The little girl pressed her face into the man's chest, her tiny fingers gripping his shirt tightly, her voice shaking. "They're coming. They won't stop," she whispered. The man lowered his head slightly, his voice calm but strong. "Then we run," he said. "Hold on to me, and don't let go." Without waiting, he moved, his legs pushing forward with speed, breaking through the smallest gap in the circle before the guards could close it. The crowd screamed and scattered. The guards shouted in anger, chasing after him. The market turned into chaos. Stalls toppled, lights flickered, merchants shouted as the man ran past, carrying the girl close, his heart beating hard, his eyes sharp. He weaved through the narrow paths, every turn filled with danger, every corner hiding another soldier. The girl held on tight, her small voice whispering again and again, "Don't let them take me. Don't let them take me." And each word fueled the man's strength, his legs carrying him faster, his fists ready for anyone who tried to block his way. Two guards appeared in front of him, their blades raised. The man did not slow, his foot slammed into a stall, sending wooden crates flying. The crates crashed into the guards, knocking them aside. The path opened, and he ran through. The girl, safe in his arms, the chase grew louder, boots pounding behind him, shouts echoing through the market. The merchant's angry voice rising above all. "Stop him! He carries a prize greater than any treasure. Do not let him escape." The man turned down a dark alley, the walls narrow, shadows deep. The girl lifted her head, her big eyes scanning the path. "This way leads outside," she whispered. "I know. I've been here before." The man nodded, trusting her small voice, trusting her memory. He kept running, his steps strong, but the sound of guards followed close behind, their armored bodies crashing against walls, their blades scraping the stone as they closed in. One guard leapt from a side path, his blade slashing toward the man. The human twisted his body, the blade cutting only through air. His elbow slammed into the guard's helmet. The alien dropped with a grunt. The man didn't stop. He couldn't stop. The girl pointed ahead with her tiny hand. "There, the gates, the big gates," she whispered with urgency. At the end of the alley, faint light glowed, the exit of the market, freedom just beyond. But two massive guards stood at the gate, their armor shining, their weapons like spears of fire. They blocked the only path out. The man slowed only for a second, his eyes scanning no other way. No other door, only forward. He adjusted the girl in his arms, whispering to her softly. "Close your eyes," she obeyed, pressing her face against him, her small body trembling. The guards stepped forward, their weapons humming, their voices deep. "You cannot pass, human. Give up the child." The man's answer was sharp. "Never." With a roar, he charged, his body a storm of strength. The guards swung their weapons, but the man slid low, his shoulders smashing into the first guard's. "Knee!" The alien cried out, falling to the ground. The second guard swung down with a spear of fire. The man twisted, his fist striking the guard's chest. Sparks burst as armor cracked. The guard stumbled back. The path was open, the gates wide. Beyond them, the city stretched, dark streets and strange lights, but freedom compared to the prison of the market. The man ran through, the girl still clinging to him. The crowd behind roared with shock. Guards shouted. The merchants screamed in rage. But they were out. They were free, at least for now. The city air was colder, sharp against the man's skin. He kept running, his breath heavy, his arms tight around the child. The sounds of pursuit still behind him, though more distant now. The girl lifted her head, her voice small, but filled with wonder. You got us out," she said, her eyes shining with tears. "No one ever tried before. No one ever helped me." The man looked down at her, his steps steady even in the chaos, his voice firm but kind. "I told you, they will never take you." Again, she pressed her head against his chest again, whispering softly, "I believe you." Behind them, the market burned with noise. Guards and merchants shouting, soldiers preparing to chase. The hunt was not over. But for that moment, in the shadow of the alien city, the human and the child had done the impossible. They had escaped. The legend was growing, and it was only just beginning. The city stretched out before them, streets glowing with strange alien lights, buildings rising tall like teeth against the dark sky. But the man had no time to look. He ran fast, the little girl held close in his arms, her small body trembling, her eyes wide as she peeked at the world outside the market. Behind them, the sound of pursuit echoed, guards shouting, heavy boots striking the stone ground, weapons humming with deadly light. The hunt was not over. The Empire's servants were close. The girl whispered, her small voice shaking. "They will not stop. They will follow us everywhere." The man's eyes stayed sharp, his breath steady even as his chest burned. "Then let them follow," he said. "I will not run forever. If they want us, they will have to face me." He turned down a wide street, hoping to lose them in the maze of the alien city. But as he reached the end, his steps slowed, his eyes narrowing. Ahead, more guards waited, a line of armored soldiers blocking the way, their weapons glowing in the night. Their stance strong, they had been called quickly. The Empire wasted no time. The man stopped, the girl clutching tighter, her heart beating fast. They are everywhere," she whispered, her eyes filling with tears. The guards stepped forward, their leader's voice deep and cold. "Human, surrender the child. You cannot escape. You cannot fight us all." The man placed the girl gently on the ground behind him, kneeling so she could hear his words. "Stay close, stay behind me, no matter what," he said, his voice calm, steady. The girl nodded quickly, her small hands gripping the edge of his shirt again, her voice tiny but firm. "I trust you." The man stood tall, his fists ready, his body tense, the streetlights shining against his face, his shadow long on the stone ground. "If you want her," he said to the guards, his voice steady and sharp, "then you will have to go through me." The guards laughed, their weapons rising. The leader sneered. "You are one man, human. One against an army, you will fall." The man's eyes did not waver. "Then let me fall standing." The first guard charged, blade flashing. The man moved like a storm, stepping aside, his fist slamming into the guard's side. The alien dropped with a cry. The others rushed forward, weapons slashing through the air. The girl screamed softly, pressing herself against the wall, but her eyes stayed on him, her tiny heart pounding with both fear and hope. The man fought with speed and fire, his fists striking helmets, his boots kicking against armored legs, every move precise, every strike heavy. But there were too many. Blades cut the air around him, spears slammed against the stone. The sound of battle filled the night. The leader raised his weapon high, swinging down. The man caught it with both hands. Sparks bursting as the blade hummed, his teeth clenched, his muscles burning. He pushed back with all his strength, forcing the leader to stumble. The crowd had begun to gather again. Aliens peering from windows, from doorways, whispering in awe and fear. A human fighting the Empire's guards. Alone, the girl shouted suddenly, her small voice breaking through the chaos. Behind you! The man turned just in time, ducking as a blade cut through the space where his head had been. His fist shot. Upward, smashing into the guard's jaw, the alien fell, groaning on the ground. But still more came, surrounding him, pressing close, their weapons glowing brighter. The man's chest rose and fell heavy, sweat dripping, bruises already forming, his arms trembling but his eyes sharp. He refused to fall. The leader sneered. Again, "You cannot win, human. Your body will break, your spirit will shatter." The man spat blood to the side, his voice calm but fierce. "Then it will shatter standing, not kneeling." The girl's eyes filled with tears, her small voice trembling. "Please, don't give up. Please don't let them take me." He looked back at her for only a second, his eyes soft, his voice strong. "I will never let them take you." With that, he surged forward again, his fists striking like thunder, his body moving like fire. Guards fell one by one, their groans filling the street. Still more pressed in, but none broke his stance, none passed him to reach the girl. The fight stretched on, endless. The human against the Empire's strength, his body battered, his breath heavy, but his will unbroken. The crowd whispered louder, now awe-filling their voices. "He fights for her. He does not stop. A human against an army." The leader growled, his voice sharp. "Enough, kill him, kill them both." The guards raised their weapons for a final strike. The girl screamed, her hands reaching out toward the man, but the human stood tall, ready to take them all. His shadow long under the alien lights, his heart steady even as death closed in. And in that moment, the city itself seemed to hold its breath, watching the stand of one man who refused to bend. The street burned with noise and fire, the clash of blades against stone, the echo of fists striking armor, the groans of fallen guards filling the night. Still the man stood tall, his chest heaving, his fists bleeding, his body marked with bruises, but his spirit unbroken. The little alien girl crouched behind him, her small hands gripping his shirt, her eyes wide with both fear and hope. She whispered softly, "Please don't fall, please don't leave me." He looked back at her for only a second, his eyes gentle despite the chaos. "I won't," he said, his voice steady. More guards rushed forward, the leader among them, his weapon glowing bright, his face twisted with rage. "You are nothing, human. Nothing but flesh. You cannot fight forever." The man's voice cut sharp through the noise. "I don't need forever. I just need long enough to keep her safe." The battle roared again. Weapons slashing, fists striking. The man moved like fire, blocking, dodging, striking back. Every step he took was to shield the girl. Every strike he gave was to push them away from her. The crowd grew larger, aliens filling the windows and streets, watching in silence, whispers rising like a storm. Why does he fight for a child not his own? Why does he stand when death waits for him? The merchant finally stepped forward, his golden robes dirty with dust, his eyes burning with greed. His voice sharp. "Enough!" he shouted. His hand raised, the guards froze at his command. The street went silent except for the heavy breath of the human. The merchant's voice grew sly, cruel. "You are strong, human, stronger than most I have seen. But strength means nothing against power. You cannot kill us all, and if you keep fighting, you and the child will both die here." The girl whimpered, pressing herself against the man's back, her small voice trembling. "Don't listen. Don't leave me." The merchant smirked, his voice smooth. "I will offer you a choice, human. Walk away now, leave the child, and I will spare your life. You will go free, no chains, no wounds. Nothing will follow you. But the girl stays. She belongs to the market." The crowd gasped, their whispers louder. All eyes turned to the man. Would he take the bargain? Would he abandon the girl to save himself? The girl's eyes filled with tears. Her voice broke. "Please, don't let them take me. Don't leave me. Please." The man bent down, his hand gently resting on her small shoulder. his voice steady but filled with fire. "I told you. I will never let them take you." He stood tall again, his voice loud enough for all to hear. "I will not trade her life for mine. I will not leave her, not now, not ever." The merchant's face twisted with anger, his voice sharp. "Then you choose death." The man's eyes burned, his fists ready again. "No," he said. "I choose to protect her." The crowd fell silent, the words heavy like thunder. Even the guards shifted uneasily, the weight of his choice stronger than their weapons. The merchant screamed, "Kill him! Kill them both!" The guards rushed again, but the man roared, his fists striking like hammers, his body moving with strength beyond exhaustion. He fought with everything left inside him. Every breath, every strike, every drop of blood, not for himself, but for the child behind him. The girl cried out, her voice cutting through the chaos. "He's not afraid of you, he will never stop." The words echoed. The crowd gasped. Some even cheered quietly, their voices trembling. The sight of one man standing against so many filled them with something strange, something dangerous. Hope. The leader clashed with the man again, their bodies slamming together, sparks flying. The man grunted in pain but did not fall. His fist smashed into the leader's helmet, cracking it. The alien stumbled back. The merchant's eyes widened, fear mixing with rage. This was no ordinary human, this was a storm he could not control. The man stood tall again, blood on his fists, fire in his eyes, the girl clutching his leg, the guards circling but hesitating now, the crowd whispering louder and louder. The merchant screamed in desperation, "He is only one man, take him down." But no one moved quickly. The guards hesitated. The crowd's eyes burned with something new, and the man's choice had already turned into something greater than himself. The girl looked up at him, her tears shining like stars, her small voice whispering, "You chose me." He bent his head slightly, his voice soft but steady. "Always." And in that moment, as the guards closed in again, as the merchant screamed in fury, the legend of the human who refused to abandon a child was sealed in the hearts of all who saw. A man who chose mercy over survival, and a child who would never again stand alone.